Welcome, or ikomo mai, as we say in Hawaii, and thanks for joining to watch this 15-minute presentation on what you can expect if you're moving to Hawaii. Please feel free to pause the presentation at any time if you would like to take a screenshot or write down any information. Also, please note that the presentation will always be available on our YouTube channel and on the CAF Connection website. I hope that you are excited about this posting opportunity, as there's so many things to see and do here. Please keep an eye out for our Wish I Knew points. These points have been gathered from fellow Canadians after settling into Hawaii in hopes of easing the transition by avoiding surprises and having realistic expectations for newcomers. So let's get started. Hawaii is the 50th state. It is located in Oceania along the Pacific Ring of Fire. It's the only state outside of North America, the only island state, and the only state in the tropics. It is also one of the few U.S. states to have once been an independent nation. It is the most isolated population center in the world. It takes about 5.5 to 6 hours just to fly from the west coast of North America. So if you want to go anywhere, it's by plane, even to the next island. There are 8 main islands with many more uninhabited small islands scattered around. Most people live on Kauai, Oahu, Molokai, Lanai, Maui, and the Big Island. Some fun facts about Hawaii are that the state grows more than 1/3 of the world's commercial supply of pineapples, and that is the only state that grows coffee. Most of the world's macadamia nuts are grown here as well. As the Hawaiian Islands are volcanic islands, there are some active volcanoes, primarily on the Big Island, which has erupted twice in the past few years. The island of Oahu is where all of our families are located. Each island has a nickname, with Oahu known as the Gathering Place. It is the third largest of the islands and the third most northern, and it has 3/4 of the state population of approximately 1.4 million. Approximately 8% of the Hawaiian population is made up of American military, largely here in Oahu, and it's the highest proportion in any state. By consequence, there are quite a few military bases scattered around Oahu, with all branches of the American military represented. Our Canadian members do not work on all of the bases together. Instead, they're scattered amongst various military installations around the island, sometimes as the only other Canadian at their place of work. This brings me to Wish I Knew number 1. For members, they wish they knew about the commute to their work or various other places before choosing where to live. Because traffic can be such an issue on the island, commuting time will vary depending on where you decide to live. So, while on your HHT, consider doing your potential commute to your future base from your potential home location during rush hour to give you a good idea of what you can expect here. Where we live on the island, the Canadians, is circled in black on the screen, with the Ewa Beach community currently having the largest amount of Canadians living here. Our families with younger children tend to live in the Ewa Beach and Kailua and Kaneohe areas. Our singles live in the Ewa Beach, Mililani, or Honolulu area, and couples and families with older children are scattered about or live and have lived in all of the locations circled on the map. There are not many big cities on Oahu. However, Honolulu is the main city, and it's also the state capital. There's also Kapolei on the west side, and it's the second largest city. Other large population centers are Ewa Beach, Mililani, Haleiwa, Pearl City, Kailua and Kaneohe, and Hawaii Kai. Another wish I knew that Canadians wish they'd known before they chose their home in Hawaii is that they want to know where the other Canadians are living. This may be because you want to be near other families, you want to lessen driving time to some events, you want other Canadians around in case of childcare or pet emergencies, or it may be easier for you to integrate when being close to other families. If any of this rings true for you, you should consider this in your choice of place to live. I'm just going to go through the various places that we live here on the island. So Ewa Beach, which is on the west and central sides, the west side of the island, has the largest population of Canadians, and it's near the second largest city of Kapolei. It's very similar to a suburb in Canada, with the addition of palm trees, of course. And it has planned communities, big box stores, and is near good elementary and intermediate schools. It's a good place for families with younger children and youth. It's closest to the north central bases like Schofield Barracks and Wheeler Airfield, and is great for members of the detachment. The weather here is very dry and hot year round with little rainfall. There are also Canadians in the Det living in nearby Makakilo and Mililani, with similar advantages to Eva Beach, although with cooler weather and more rainfall than Mililani. There's also a very good high school in Mililani as well. Families in these locations tend to use Schofield Barracks or Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam for commissaries, exchanges, base services, and facilities. All these locations will require longer commutes of approximately 45 minutes or more one way due to inconsistent and heavy traffic during rush hours to the central bases at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, Fort Shafter, and Camp Smith, where the officers predominantly work. However, for the Det, it is an excellent place to live. The next largest concentration of Canadians is on the east or windward side in Kailua and Kaneohe. Kailua is a beach town with older, more traditional homes and good shopping, but very few big box stores. It is near good elementary, intermediate, and high schools, and is a good place for families with younger children or teenagers. It's an excellent place to live for members working at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, Camp Smith, or Fort Shafter, as the commute is short, 20 to 25 minutes, and consistent, and even better for those working at the nearby Marine Corps base at Kaneohe Bay. Another advantage is having a base so close by for the commissary and other base services and facilities. The weather here tends to be a bit cooler, and the area is lusher with more rainfall. Some Canadians also choose to live south of Honolulu in the Aina Haina and Hawaii Kai areas, which offer homes on the ranges with fantastic views or around a marina with water access. There are lots of shopping around, and there are some good schools and a lot of activities. And you'll be closer to Waikiki and Honolulu there. It's a great location for officers and their families who work at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, Fort Shafter, and Camp Smith if they don't mind a one-way commute of approximately 40 minutes. The nearest base with commissary base services and facilities is Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, as it is for those Canadians that choose to live in Honolulu. Honolulu offers condo living, great views, and access to attractions, shopping, Waikiki, nightlife, and commutes of around 30 minutes to Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, Fort Shafter, and Camp Smith. There are at least 10 bases on Oahu belonging to different branches of the U.S. military. I've highlighted the main bases on the island that Canadians work at. As there are so many military in the island and around the Pacific, there is a dedicated military hospital on the island serving the Hawaiian bases and U.S. personnel stationed around the Pacific. There are also medical treatment facilities, or MTFs, associated with the bases, and this is where the majority of medical care will be received, including dental for members. In addition to being where the CAF members will be working, the bases offer a large variety of services and programs, the vast majority of which are available to Canadians with military ID cards. Everything from commissaries or grocery stores, gym facilities, military family services, and recreational offerings like beaches, boats, surfboards, to arts and crafts, libraries, shopping, mental health services, and spouse groups, and pretty much anything in between. Many of the services and programmings you may be familiar with in Canada, such as through MFRCs, are provided on the bases here. And MFS US is here to fill in the gaps. While each base is associated with a particular branch or branches of the U.S. military, our common access cards or CAT cards and dependents ID cards allow access to most bases on the island, regardless of the member's branch. If you want to get to know your base before you move here, please check out one or both of the resources provided on the slide. And if you'd like to look into what's available for morale and welfare and recreation, a great place to check out is Great Life Hawaii, which is also provided on your screen. So What are the main national OUTCAN challenges you may encounter while you're here? One is if you choose to have a child, you will have to ensure that that child becomes a citizen of Canada as well as the US. And boys born here in the US can be subject to selective service when they come of age. For childcare, it may not be the same as what you're used to back home. And you may have to adjust to no longer being close to family or friend support, which you may have had in Canada. The coordinator can provide babysitting resources and other resources for childcare. And as school starts at a higher age for children, you may have 3 or 4 year olds at home instead of in junior kindergarten or preschool as you may have anticipated. This brings me to education in schools. It's quite different in the US and here in Hawaii from Canada. Here, all schools start at the beginning of August and end in May. There is no junior kindergarten, so school starts at 5. The schools vary greatly in quality, so you will need to be very careful on where you choose to live in order to have your child in a good quality school. There are school liaison officers that can assist you with this, and you can also speak with your coordinator about that. There's no French schooling available, although French tutoring is an option. In fact, there is really no other language available except for Hawaiian, which you may or may not wish to enroll your children in. There are also strict school enrollment requirements, such as immunization, doctor's authorizations from a local doctor, and you will need to bring required medical and school records as well. You'll also notice there can be a lot of differences in the subjects taught and when they are taught. And here, of course, the emphasis is on Hawaiian studies. Also, if you have a teenager who gets a US high school diploma here, that by itself is not equivalent to a Canadian diploma. So there will be things, extra things that your child will need to do, and you should contact your coordinator, and she will put you in touch with the Children's Education Management section to help you with that. Overall, be prepared for a transition period for your school-age children, and that gaps in their education from the American standpoint may need to be addressed in their first year in the US. Finances. One thing that's mentioned by all Canadians here is how expensive it can be here, more so than they even imagined when they first got here. In general, Hawaii is just as an expensive place to live in terms of rent, food, utilities, travel, and recreation costs, and for many services. In addition, members are paid in Canadian funds, which are then converted to US dollars based on the exchange rate on the day. The exchange rate has not been favorable for a number of years and does not look like it will significantly improve anytime soon. Also, everything here needs to be shipped in from somewhere, which it can add to costs. Fortunately, we do have access to US military bases and services to counter some of these costs. Employment for spouses. One thing that a lot of spouses have said is that spousal employment can also be very difficult to find, especially for spouses that have a professional career in which to continue them in Hawaii or are seeking specific employment. Also, while there is low unemployment here normally, there are very few well-paying jobs, and minimum wage is only $10.10 an hour. And most of the jobs are available in the tourism industry. Also, you will require a employment authorization document, or EAD, to work, which cannot be applied for until you arrive in the country, although you can start the paperwork beforehand. If you think that you want to do that, definitely get in contact with your coordinator as soon as possible. Healthcare is an area that can be an issue for many of the dependents, as the members receive all of their medical care through the MTFs on base or at Triple Medical Center. Also, insurance billing can come into play when you're dealing with eye care and dental for dependents, as it's on the economy, as well as for any specialist or referrals that you have made out onto the economy. There are excellent short modules to talk you through most of these processes, and they're all available on our YouTube channel. They've been provided by CDLS Washington. We'll also have a local information pamphlet to help you in choosing different types of medical providers as well. Then there's taxes. Taxes will be filed back in Canada, but our residency statuses depend on whether we're a member or a dependent. So this may lead to spouses starting to file separately. We have an annual webinar on filing taxes, so that's a great thing to look at each year. And holders of employment authorization documents will have to file with the IRS each year, even if they are not working. So, two areas that many Canadians may find different from Canada is the gun culture and political cultures. While you may not see guns visible much in Hawaii, there is a strong right to bear arms belief by many Americans. And for politics, it is more extreme than we typically see in Canada, and it's something you see discussed and shown on the TV much more prevalently than we do in Canada. Also, unlike when we are in Canada, here we are guests in the US and are considered ambassadors of Canada. So it is a good idea to familiarize yourself with the code of service as it can apply to all family members in the US, not just the CAF members. Also, if you are used to having French services, they are not provided in the US, especially not in Hawaii, outside of French tutoring with private tutors. Specifically to Hawaii, we have quite a few things that are different. Aloha time is a real thing here, where island life goes at a more relaxed pace. And a lot of things like government services or service appointments can be frustrating to get and to have repairs done and made in a timely manner. Also, there's something called island fever, which is a phenomenon of feeling claustrophobic from the close proximity of each shoreline and feeling disconnected from the outside world. While some people love being able to be here and for travel opportunities, many people miss the support of their families and friends back home, especially during the holidays or when losing family help with children or during stressful times. So it can feel a bit isolating as well. Culturally, this is a racially diverse and place and heavily influenced by various ethnic groups that have come to the islands over the past 200 years. So Hawaii is a mix of cultures and influences. In particular, it is very different from the rest of the US and local culture with the Polynesian influences of the aloha spirit, hula, music, art, activities like outrigger canoeing, native Hawaiian cuisine, and religious practices. For some insight or more information on the Hawaiian language, as well as into the history and cultural practices, you can go to places like our local CAF connection website, which I provide on the last page of this slide, the last slide of this presentation. And as well, you could go to www.gohawaii.com/Hawaiian-culture. Some other things that you may encounter are petty theft. So break-ins are the most common type of crime on island, especially when vehicles are parking in hiking and beach areas or tourist areas. And guns are known to be used in such crimes, especially in the Honolulu area. Also, and this is a wish I knew, when you're bringing pets to the island, you should know that the pet importation process here can be lengthy and costly and will significantly reduce your rental options as well, because many landlords in Hawaii are reluctant to rent their properties to pet owners, regardless of the type of pet. Also, some airlines have restrictions on allowing pets to fly if runway temperatures are too high, which may pose a problem during summer months. And many pets are not allowed in the cabins as well. Finally, Hawaii is a major tourist destination and dependent on tourism. Millions of people come to the islands every year, and most employment and many services are geared towards this market. It can be very crowded anywhere tourists are, including beaches, attractions, and restaurants. And prices for many things are inflated due to this industry in tourist dominated areas. We have a beautiful and climate, of course, sunny and hot all year round, and we are outside all year round. We have two seasons, wet, which corresponds with winter, and dry, which corresponds with summer. We are in a tropical location closer to the equator than other places in the US. With tropical conditions come tropical hazards like pests. You will encounter cockroaches, centipedes, geckos, and other small lizards, flies, mosquitoes, and possibly large cane spiders while you are here, at least some of the time. Fortunately, these are not poisonous. This is a year-long issue due to the climate, which rarely gets below 15 degrees Celsius on winter nights. But don't worry, you can get pest control that will help manage those pests. There's also something rather unique here called fog, which is a combination of volcanic ash and fumes that drifts over the islands and can cause air quality issues. These may affect people with asthma and respiratory allergies, although it is not always present, mostly during volcanic eruptions on the Big Island, which has been happening over the past few years. Also, I wish I knew that many people have here is that they wish they knew that the climate itself can be very hard on your belongings due to the humidity and salt in the air. Electronics, leather, musical instruments, books, and some types of metal will be affected. The climate will be hard on your vehicles as well. Being aware of this will help you to choose what you bring with you and what to leave in storage in Canada to avoid damage to irreplaceable and expensive items. There are some natural disasters that you have to be aware of when you come to Hawaii. Hurricanes is the most prevalent one, which we have an annual season of this between June 1st and November 30th every year. Of course, we prepare for this with emergency preparedness and 2 weeks supply of food, water, and medication supplies. Fortunately, there's only been two direct hits to the islands in 1959 and 1992, and never to Oahu. However, there was a near miss in July 2020 to Oahu and Kauai when a Category 4 Hurricane Douglas passed only about 40 miles or 64 kilometers from the islands, which did cause minimal damage. Also, when earthquakes occur around the Pacific Rim, there can be an associated risk of tsunamis, usually hours later. There are, of course, designated evacuation zones on the islands, and like hurricanes, these are monitored and alerts are sent out. There is also the minor possibility of earthquakes in the Hawaiian Islands, and this may be linked to volcanic activity. Finally, in the winter or with big storms and hurricanes, it can rain in a torrential manner, which leads to flash flooding, which may require evacuations. And there are some areas of the island that are more susceptible to such flooding, such as coastal areas and near streams and rivers. Fortunately, Hawaii has a good system of alerts set up, as well as will open evacuation areas and shelters when necessary. And our community members will help each other out as well. There's also a monthly testing of emergency sirens. There's various websites and apps you can use to keep informed. There's a statewide alert system that appears on cell phones as well as TVs and on our local radio stations. Information about this will, of course, be provided to you when you do move here. So, military family services. While you are posted to the U.S., our goal as military family services is to provide you and your family with the support and the information we have to help make this posting the best it can be. And examples of this are shown on the screen. We hope to ease the transition between Canada and the U.S. and help you settle and thrive in your new community. Our programs and services are developed or identified in the community to meet the needs of our Canadian Armed Forces members and families posted to the U.S. If there is something we can do to help you ease your transition, please let us know. Here is the local MFS contact information. The coordinator here can help you with questions that you may have and provide information needed to help you and your family with your move to Hawaii. Once you have your posting message, please contact your coordinator, and they'll be happy to add you to our local Facebook group and our local email distribution list so you can start receiving our newsletters, programs, and local information. The best website to get information and understanding how an OUTCAN works is at the MFS US website. On this site, you will find information, everything from national programs, as well as a welcome guide, which has lots of information on medical and job applications, that kind of thing, and as well on our local page. Link is in the slide. And this is where you will learn about our location and what services we have to offer. I encourage you and your family to call or email me anytime with any questions. I understand that an OUTCAN move can be daunting but exciting at the same time. I'm here to help answer your questions, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that this helps prepare you for Oahu. The island has so much to offer, and Oahu is a wonderful posting opportunity. You will also discover that we have a strong, supportive Canadian community, and we look forward to welcoming you and your family. All the best as you make your way to Hawaii and as you settle into your new adventure.